Hello, please introduce yourself and tell us about what you do.
I am Arturo Elosegi. I am professor of ecology, and I work in functioning of river ecosystems, on the impacts of human activities on this functioning, and on restoration projects.
What was the problem you wanted to solve in your hydrological and water management practices?
The main idea was to reduce the fragmentation of Basque streams, which is caused mainly by many small weirs. In addition to that, we wanted to improve habitat quality because now we have so many lentic, stagnant sections because of these weirs, and also to reduce flood risk.
What is important about this project, its goals? What is special or unique about it?
For us, it was the first time that we started to implement these dam removal practices in highly urbanized areas. So the local governments have worked a lot on small, quite almost pristine rivers, where the biodiversity, salmon, and so on were the main goals. Now we are moving to more urbanized areas, to more uh, to areas where more people live and where things get more complex, of course.
What were the drivers for the project? Water Framework Directive? Another legal requirement?
Well, in the Basque Country, dam removal started with the Habitat Directive, mm, with endangered species such as the Atlantic salmon, but it shifted with time or to other drivers, mainly the Water Framework Directive, and also to the Flood Directive, because these small dams raise the water level, and when they are near urban areas and so on, they are increasing the risk of flooding.
What impact did you anticipate on freshwater restoration and facilitating future projects?
Well, first of all, we anticipate that there will be an increase in fish passability, in fish migrations. We will also improve river habitats, making them more fast-flowing. We will reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases, reduce flooding risk, and we also expect to increase the interest of the local society toward the rivers, because quite often we see that they give their back to the river.
What measures did you take to achieve the goals of the project?
In this project, the main action has been to remove dams. Well, not large dams; they were small weirs. There are a number of dams in the basin, and our idea is to remove all obsolete dams. And in total, there are 10 dams which are ancient, which are not longer working, and the idea is to remove all of them.
Was the project focused the biodiversity as well?
Yeah, there is a strong emphasis on biodiversity. We're monitoring the effects of this removal on invertebrates, on microbes, on fish, and looking also to other components of biodiversity, such as birds.
Where did the funding came from and did the funders impose any specific constraints?
Well, this is a European project, an H2020 project. And when we were invited to be part of this consortium, we were asked to focus on dam removal. So, in this sense, it's quite narrowly focused.
What were the main challenges in implementing this project?
There are a number of challenges. There are some technical aspects. Sometimes dams can be easily removed. Sometimes it's more complex because the stream channel will adjust, and you can have some problems upstream or downstream with the stability of banks or roads or houses which are nearby. There was also a strong misperception by the local society. We interviewed all council mayors, all stakeholder groups, and most of them didn't see the dams as a problem. They often saw the dams as a value they have, huh? And they didn't realize that they were increasing the flooding risk, or they were degrading the habitat. There has been also some opposition, but by some locals. Many of the locals are in favor now of removing the dams, but not all of them. And there has been also a a clash, if you want, between the Department of Nature or Environment and Culture, both at the province and at the Basque government. So these some of these bears are culturally protected as a heritage, and that's why our proposal is to remove only part of the bear, not all of them. We leave usually we leave the both sides and open a trench to reduce flooding risk and increase the passability. And it's not always being considered positively by the culture department.
Did you succeed in addressing them? What worked well, what not so well?
I would say that we had a partial success. Our idea was to remove 10 dams, and so far we have removed four. And most probably we will succeed at removing four more this year, so that will make 8 out of 10 dams. The meetings with the majors and with the local technicians were very fruitful. Uh, Quite easily, we showed them that their perception was not always right, and that they had a problem they had not seen, and that we could help solving this problem. With the general society, it was more complex. Sometimes it worked very well, sometimes it did not.
What would you do differently next time and why?
Well, I would say that the main problem of Merlin in the Deva River was that we focused in just one measure, dam removal. It was important, but often we were seen by the locals as a too narrowly minded project. So I would start with a more open project. There are other actions also that could lead to an improvement in the situation of the river. And I believe that that would make it easier for the society to accept even dam removal.
Were there things that you wanted to do but could not?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we think two of the 10 dams we wanted to remove will not be removed by the moment. Mm. I guess that in some years the situation could change, but by the moment there is a town where some of the locals, want to keep these dams as part of their landscape or their cultural or aesthetic heritage, if you want.
Are there aspects of this project that are specific to the location, region, or country? What would be transferable?
I would say that most of the aspects in this project are transferable. Of course, the local perception changes. For instance, here we are in the northern part of Spain, which is quite humid, and water is not as important. It's of course important, but the perception of water of these dams and so on, I believe it's much more important in Mediterranean parts of Spain. For instance, the risk of flooding is not the same everywhere. The perception of the risk is not the same everywhere. But I would say that most is transferable. I would say that it's important to realize that sometimes these projects have a strong opposition by locals. At times they can have good reasons. At times it's just they neglect to see any evidence. It's like there are still climate change skeptics, or there are still earth flat believers. Here also there are people who won't believe there is an improvement when you are removing a dam.
At what stage of implementation is this project today? How has it changed with climate change and over time?
4 out of the 10 dams have already been removed. Now the plans and the administrative procedure has been put in operation for removing the 4 more dams this summer. I believe that the problems caused by these small dams are becoming more and more evident with climate change. The intensity and the frequency of flooding in southern Europe, it's increasing, and people is becoming more and more aware that maybe their houses are not so as safe as they thought.
How could your experience on this project help others implement successful restoration works?
I would say that managers often fear taking new actions, making something that has not been proven. So every time a restoration project is implemented somewhere that teaches managers in other areas that that can be done. Maybe that can be done if at the moment you think it's not even possible in your region. So I would say that this is a snowball effect. The more restoration projects we perform, the easier additional restoration projects become.
What do you see as the main challenges for freshwater restoration projects now?
Most people tend to think that lack of funding is the main limit, the main challenge. I do not agree. I would say that the main challenge is the lack of imagination by part of the society and as well by part of the managers of imagining a different world, a world where this problem we have actually could be removed. It can be dam removal. It can be things that are being implemented in Holland in increasing the floodplains of the Rhine River and so on. So the first thing is that is to believe, yeah, we can change the world. And if you believe that, you can then start to look for funds or to address the technical challenges, which are, of course, important. Second, at times I see that some managers lack ambition. They see that there is a solution, but they fear getting into that trouble. It's much easier to just continue with your life as usual. And third, I would say that the disinformation it's also important. Now there is a strong movement of fake news, of people challenging the existence of climate change, for instance, or people challenging that dams are a problem for fish migration. This information makes everything much more complex.
In your experience, what would you recommend to someone wanting to implement a restoration projects to do as a priority?
I would say that the priority is to make sure that what you intend to do is really restoration, that it goes, that it will shift the river towards a more natural system, not towards a more aesthetically pleasing or to a different system. Sometimes I see things that are called restoration, but I consider to be degradation. They are trying to fix rivers to prevent them from migrating, or they are building a landscape which is very far from what would be a natural river. So I believe that everything we do under the heading of restoration, even if you do not reach total restoration, which of course it's most of the time it's impossible, you should go in this direction and not in the opposite, which is what happens sometimes. Then I would say that you have to sow the ideas in managers. Sometimes we have been discussing with them a topic, and they said, no, that's impossible. We cannot even talk about that. But 5, 10 years later, this idea you saw there, it sprouts, and they start to believe in it and implementing it. This part of imagining a different solution is not something that you will achieve immediately, but I think that it's important to work on. Finally, that also demands for restoration practitioners to be patient. Things are not cannot be done from one day to the next day, and you have to analyze which are the problems in your environment, devise potential solutions. Some of the solutions are impossible by the moment. Maybe in 100 years it will be different. Some others are simply difficult to imagine, and some others are easy. Don't just go for the easy ones. Go also for these more complex, which will require more time, more patience from your side. But do not lose opportunities because they arise later or sooner.
What would you recommend that they try to avoid?
I would say that you should try to avoid anything that moves the project to the political arena. Too often we see that technical issues become political issues, political in the sense of political party issues. If a political party wants to do that, the rest will oppose. So we should try to avoid that or to um, remove our technical discussion from this political arena. Of course, having more nature or less nature, and this is a political issue, but it should not be perceived so differently between different political parties. So try to avoid these daily political struggles.
Do you have any suggestion for your government or the European Commission as to measures that might help enable more and more successful restoration projects?
I cannot teach anything to the European Commission. They have a much broader view that I have, but I would be ambitious. Hmm? Be ambitious. There are things that seemed unimaginable some decades ago, and today have been implemented. We have a really big problem in face with climate change, with environmental degradation, and so on. So we need strong solutions, big projects, and that requires courage and will by our politicians.
In a summary, what are your key messages for those facing the restoration challenge?
I would say it's do not lose hope. Always keep hope, be courageous. And the second, think out of the box. Often we are too, we all, it's not at rest, we all are too limited in the solutions we're proposing. And quite often there are things that could be done, that could be made to improve the environment in any place, and that simply didn't occur to us.